the one thing I haven't been able to do successfully. So today we're going to record this program. Right. All right, now we're back for Stina. There you go.
Now I'm back. So we are recording. Yay. And hopefully we'll hit save at the end. As I said, we are really trying to get through this new technology that I'm glad we have learned something from this crisis. Something that we probably should have been doing a long time is more of these virtual things to allow our businesses, while they're at the comfort of their home, working from there or from their offices. So we're glad that we're able to do these virtual meetings. We recently sent out another survey to our members asking what they needed to learn about during this crisis. So we will be reviewing that so that we can determine some other upcoming programs that we will do for you virtually. The next one that we have coming up was with Tony Dottino. And I really want to thank Monty again from last week, Chris from this week. Chris was supposed to be a spotlight speaker for us that was developed through our 3D committee. And I had asked him, I said, look, I don't know when we're going to be able to get back to doing in-person events. So would you be kind enough to do this for us and try to cram as much information into about 45 minutes? And Chris was very generous and said that he'd be able to do that for us. And our sponsors have been wonderful too, because they were supposed to be sponsoring other events. And of course, we've had to rearrange in our calendar. So they've been most gracious to say, Stina, whatever the chamber needs to get the messaging out to our members at this time, we are more than happy to support. So thank you to Seacoast and thank you to Strombeck. And I'll say a little bit more about them. Just yesterday, I heard that some of our members are actually receiving the PPP funding through the CARES Act. Let us know if you're getting the PPP, if you're getting EIDL, those economic injury disaster loans. We want to know that. Once a week, we participate not only in a Florida Chamber call, we also participate in the U.S. Chamber call. And they want to know what businesses are starting to see this. They also want to know if people are starting to receive any of the unemployment or reemployment compensation. So let us know if you are so that we can include you in some of the statistics and maybe some good news stories that the funding is getting through. Something I mentioned last week, unfortunately, chambers of commerce across this country, as well as trade associations, are not able to get the economic injury disaster loan. We have been excluded from that, even though we know some chambers have applied, but they have not gotten that funding and were declined. And we also were explicitly left out of the Paycheck Protection Program. So the chamber is solely operating on the funds that the membership has been kind enough to share with us over the years and hopefully upcoming, because we want to continue to serve you in all ways that we possibly can. So thank you to our membership. Your dollars really are helping us each and every day to provide for you what this community needs. So thank you. So Strombeck Consulting has sponsored a couple of these spotlight speakers for us in the past. Scott Michael, a former board member of the chamber, consulting firm specializing, of course, in accounting. He is here to serve this community in any way possible. If you have any questions for Scott Michael, I know he's more than happy to answer those. He was recognized by the OBJ as a top CFO. So thank you to Strombeck Consulting and Scott Michael, and of course, Seacoast Bank. They have been a community trustee of our chamber for years. They are the organization that helped this chamber to fund its beautiful building that now sits empty most days. But thank you to Seacoast Bank for partnering with our new bank. I don't know I think that sound means that somebody has us probably on a cell phone as well as their laptop. I think they disconnected one. So thank you. When you get that kind of feedback, that's usually means what that's happening. So thank you to Seacoast Bank for being a community bank. They are operating regular hours, regular banking services, as well as I know that they are providing their clients with SBA loans. But they're a wonderful community bank. So thank you again to Seacoast. At this time, I really hope, because I can't tell who's on this call or not, our chairwoman of the year, my favorite chairwoman. I haven't had a chance to say that as often for our chairwoman this year, my favorite for the year. I don't think she imagined what 2020 was going to look like, and her legacy is going to be unlike any, I believe, in Chamber's history. But Deborah Rios Barnes has been a wonderful board member of ours for many years. She's been with CenturyLink, a wonderful partner with the Chamber, of course, as a community trustee. So let me introduce to you, she'll just say a few words. She's going to have to be unmuted. So let's welcome Deborah Rios Barnes, Chairwoman of the West Orange Chamber of Commerce.
Deborah, can you hear us? Deborah, are you there? Oh, I see you, but I can't hear you. All right. Well, while we're figuring out those technical difficulties, just know that Deborah Rios Barnes is an awesome chairwoman. She's done a great job for 2020, and she keeps leading us through the way. And maybe by the end of this program, I'll figure out how to get her to be able to speak to us. So thank you, Deborah, for everything that you do. All right. Now it's time to get to the program. I want to, before we get started, I want to let you know that if you have questions for today's event, I want you to put them in the chat box. And then you say, Krista, where's the chat box? If you take your cursor and you move it towards the bottom of your screen, you're going to see some bubbles pop up, and one of them looks like a conversation bubble. And if you click on that, then you'll be able to see that chat box open up to your right. And when you type in your question there, Carrie and Kelly are going to be the one asking those questions to our speaker, Chris, today. So those will happen throughout the program, and we'll have them at the end of the program as well. All right. I think I'm going to leave it like this, Chris, and then you're going to be able to share your screen. So right now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our featured guest speaker, Chris Baker, with Release Your Unconsciousness. Chris has a vast amount of experience in various leadership roles. His purpose is to add value to other people so that they can become the best versions of themselves. Chris works with individuals, teams, and companies using a unique combination of materials from the John Maxwell Team Library, the DISC Human Behavior Studies, his UK leadership experience, and the lessons he learned from his time at the Walt Disney World Company. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Chris Baker.
Thank you, Krista, and welcome everybody. Hopefully you can all hear me well and understand my English accent at the same time. I'm going to share my screen now so that you've got you can there we go. So as Krista said, my name's Chris Baker. My business is Release Your Unconscious, and I'm actually still a leader with the Walt Disney Company. So I'm actually going on furlough on Saturday, and again, this is one of the things that you look at this and you say, how do you lead through crisis, and how do you deal with it? Well, my experience of leading car dealerships and running car dealerships in the UK, and then my eight plus years with Disney and 8.5 years as a Winter Garden resident have taught me a great deal, as is the DISC method of communication. And so I wanted to, I was pleased to offer this service today to yourselves as chamber members through Stina's kind invitation. So thank you for West Orange Chamber for this opportunity. I've written 2 books as well, one about personal development and growth, and the other one is about how businesses can apply the same sort of methods. And Stina's right with this content that I'm using today is actually taken from my certification and licensing with the John Maxwell team through content that John Maxwell recently taught and that I'm licensed to teach. And it's actually normally done over 8 sessions of like 1 to 2 hours. So it's sort of 8 to 16 hours worth of content that I'm trying to condense down and give you an idea in 40 minutes or so. So that's me. I've got to try and make sure I contain it and stay on point. But if you've got any questions as you go through, as I say, put it in the chat box, and then I can answer those as we go along. I can't see the chat box because I've got the presentation on my screen. So Carrie and Kelly are going to ask those questions, and then I'll leave some time at the end for a brief Q&A if you want as well. So the quote that I used to open my open and close my book is this: are you happy living under the average limitations imposed on you by others, or are you ready to rise to the greater expectations of your inner self? Now, when I wrote that, I was really intending that for individuals, right, as your personal life. But as I think about it, this really applies to your business now. And it's really all about belief and understanding that there are no limitations other than those that exist within our mind. Now, you're probably saying, but there is economic limitations and so on at the moment. There are, but there's always a solution, and we'll go through that as we go through this presentation. but know that we're all in this together. Right? As Stina said, the chamber are adapting, we're all adapting, we're all in this together. And one thing I know for sure is that we all will get through it. I can't tell you when, but we all will get through it. And now is really the time to be what you want to become. Right? So I use that when I'm talking to individuals, be the person you want to become. But it's the same with you and your businesses. Be the business that you want to become. In other words, don't wait until we're at the end of this crisis to start planning and start moving. Right? The time to do it is now. And the way to turn adversity into an advantage, it really boils down to perspective. Right? Now, people do what people see. And as a leader, you have influence over other people. So how are you approaching this current situation? How do you see others reacting and behaving in this situation? And what is that telling you about those? So if you want to lead well, you must guard your perspective. And the perspective is this, is like how we view things is how we do things. So if we look at it and we approach with a mindset of scarcity, a mindset that everything is doom and gloom, and that's how we'll approach it. Whereas if we look at it and say, okay, amongst the adversity, there's opportunity. And how can I take advantage of that opportunity? How can I change the way that I do business? How can I change the way that I lead my team? So that we can achieve an advantage and take it forward. Now, I will say as well that this applies equally to your home life as it does to your business. Those of you who are parents and or grandparents, think about how are you influencing your children during this time. The children are off school, right? They're doing virtual learning the same as we're doing it now. So they're learning new things. How are you influencing them in this time of need? Now, they're obviously more used to technology than some of us are. But the fact of working from home, whether it's school or work, is different. It's something that we've got to get used to. And it's something, again, that as we come out of this crisis, again, this is where I say, start thinking now about how you can apply these learnings in the future. Because it could be that working from home, distance learning, if restaurants doing the curbside pickup and delivery, if that's working for you, then you can still do that when you come out of this crisis. It doesn't have to go back to the way it was. And actually, I'll go a bit further and say it shouldn't go back to the way it was. We should always be looking to improve. Now, the core of our results is the behaviors that we display every day. So let me explain that. Most people will coach or will lead towards results. And don't get me wrong, results are really important, right? Results are what pays the bills, right? and pays the employees and gives us the lifestyle that we want. But results are exactly that. They are results. So what we want to do is take it back to the behaviors. What are the behaviors that we instill every day in ourselves, and what do we influence in other people? You see, behaviors lead to actions, and actions become habits. So if we have, let's say, less than desirable behaviors, the actions and the habits we get will not be what we're looking for. So what we need to do is define and clarify the behaviors that we expect of ourselves and of our teams, and then reinforce those every day. It actually takes about 66 days to form a habit. Some people would say 21 days, but that's if it's really a small habit, like say brushing your teeth every day. But if you want to instill behaviors in your team and new behaviors in the team, it takes about 66 days. Now, that's relevant at the moment because we're obviously in this phase of stay-at-home orders and work from home. So we've got the time to actually do that. So what are we intentionally doing to do that? So if we create good behaviors and instill good behaviors, it will lead to good actions and good habits. In turn, will produce the results that we're looking for. Right? So the results are a consequence of the behaviors that we do. So here's the thing: our perspective actually determines our actions. So again, there's a great Henry Ford quote that I've used for years: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right. Right? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right. That's perspective. So if we believe that there is a way out of this, if we believe that we can come out of this stronger, we will. If we believe that this is going to ruin us, then guess what? This is going to ruin you. It's the way we work. Now, many organizations at the moment are letting people go. Right? So they're either furloughing or they're actually actually releasing their employees completely. Now, some of those firms will not do, and organizations will not take people back, and some will. So here's the thing I want you to think about now is how can you strengthen relationships and how can you look to improve your own company during this time by seeking out the top talent now, right? Rather than wait until the crisis is over. Right? Start planning now and start doing it now. Remember what we're saying there, our actions determine our influence. And those companies that look forward and move forward now will be the ones that will be on the front foot when we come through this. There's a great quote by Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich, and it says, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. This quote was written almost 100 years ago, right? But it was almost like it's written for a time like this. Now, bearing in mind, at that time, there was the Great Depression, so it probably was a time like this, right? Perspective is the differentiator. So, hear me through on this one, because I'm going to talk about advantages of a crisis. And again, it's easy to fall into the mindset and the thought process that everything is doom and gloom. But opportunity presents itself when we're in the middle of a crisis. Opportunity presents itself when we're in the middle of a crisis. What the difference is are you looking for it? If you don't look for it, you won't see it. And there's two types of people. There's the type of people who ask, how long will this last? And then there's the higher level who ask, while I'm in it, how can I get better? How can I make this a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block? In other words, it's that abundance mindset instead of the scarcity mindset. When you do this, it changes the balance between risk and reward. Right? Now, whenever there's a risk, there's an equal or greater reward. So are you prepared to take that? Are you prepared to take a chance on something new? Or do you want to stick with what you've got and risk it being even worse? You see, a crisis helps us increase focus as well. What you need to do is eliminate distractions. There are a lot of distractions going on at the moment. You only need to look at the news channels, the social media channels, chatter with friends and colleagues. There's a lot of distractions going on, especially working at home. How do you stay focused on what you're doing at home? You eliminate the distractions and you focus on it. What you're doing is you're switching from automatic to intentional. That requires your mindset. I was talking actually before we came on air, I was talking to Krista, Kerry and Kelly, and we were talking about nervousness and anxiety. And actually the opposite of anxiety is excitement. Now, there's a lot of anxiety at the moment, a lot of anxiety. Personally, I choose to use that anxiety and turn it into excitement and say, this is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to serve others. It's a great opportunity to stand out. It's a great opportunity to realize, what do we want from our lives? What do we want from our business? What this does is it identifies leaders. You see, what we do with bad experiences, it defines who we become. There's very few that take bad experiences and make them into positive experiences. That's the differentiator between a bad leader and a good leader. No, the crisis always moves us. We will never go back to where we were. The past is that, it's past. Right? The future, we don't know what the future is going to hold. All we can do is live in today. And today is called the present, and it's called the present because it's a gift. Now, what comes out of adversity and crisis? Resilience and persistence. And that's what you're going to need to get through this crisis. That's what you're going to need in life anyway. So don't only apply these things to crisis. I call this leading through crisis. It could also be the tagline and leading beyond crisis, because the things that we're teaching here apply equally when we come out of crisis to when we're in it. Now, Warren Lester wrote, "Success in life from the teachings of John Maxwell." I've sort of taken what he calls perspective principles. I've sort of adapted a few and added a few myself. And I've rounded it down into 10 main perspective principles. And these are things that I say, again, I teach over an 8-week or 8-session program. So I'm going to run through the 10, and then I'm actually going to expand on 3 of them today. So number 1, crisis defines character. Right? As we said, when we're in that, it really shows who we are. Right? We either step up or we hide. Understand as well that everything worthwhile is uphill. It always is. If you're on an even keel, a slower plateau, actually you're probably going backwards because other people are moving ahead of you. Right? So we should always be looking for constant improvement and stretching. And when we do that, we're moving out of our comfort zone. And when we do that, that's uphill. Understand that there's always an answer. Right? To every problem, there's multiple solutions. It's our job as leaders and business owners to find the best solution for us and then apply it. Always focus on the big picture. Right? We're living in the here and now, but there's a bigger picture beyond that. Adversity makes people stronger. As I say, it identifies the leaders. And leaders everybody is a leader, because everybody influences somebody. And if you influence somebody, that means they're following you, therefore you are a leader. Right? So adversity makes people stronger. Number 6 is leaders need to remain visible. Remember, I say people do what people see. If they can't see you, they get uncertain. Right? And then that anxiety grows. Then it can become contagious, and we want the positivity to become contagious. Number 7 is align your thinking and decisions to your values. I'm going to go into that in more detail shortly. Number 8 is that distraction causes uncertainty. Right, so that's where the focus comes in, and we need to remain focused on what we want to achieve and why we want to achieve it. Number 9 is we need to shift from maintaining to creating. Right, this is that forward thinking. This is the understanding that nothing is going to stay the same, that change is constant and change is good. But if we are constantly changing every day, people are not frightened of that. Right? People will embrace that. What people are frightened of is sudden change and big change. Now, obviously, we're in that at the moment, but we can use that now and go forward, and then go into a leadership style and a business style where we are moving from maintaining and moving towards creating. And then number 10, and probably one of the most important, is today matters. So make today count. Now, the 3 that I'm going to be looking at in more detail today, and again, I'm watching the time, is always focus on the big picture, align thinking and decisions to your values, and then today matters, so make it count. So let's look at always focus on the big picture. One of the challenges we face during a time of crisis is narrowing our big picture focus. In times of crisis and hardship, the most natural question for people is, how will this affect me? But when you think about it, that's limited thinking. And to battle against this limited thinking, we must fight to keep the big picture in mind. A person who only sees the small picture is concerned with how adversity impacts them and their lives. They aren't concerned about how their actions might affect someone else. Only how someone else's actions might affect them. The opposite is the person who sees the big picture, and they understand that the world is comprised of billions of people. Each of these people has value and should be valued. The person who sees the big picture understands that they stand alongside the rest of the world. Right? We are surrounded by visual problems with hidden opportunities, but what we need to look at is what can you control? Right? People often ask me about stress because I tend not to stress about anything. And they say, why don't you stress about anything? I say, because there's two things in life. There's the things you can control and the things you can't control. Right? The things you can't control, whatever you do, whatever you worry about, however you stress about them, it's not going to make any difference because you can't control it. So what do you need to do? You need to look at what you can control and then start doing something about that. Now, you can only control your actions. Right? You can talk to your employees, you can talk to your partner and your kids. You can't actually control what they do. Right? You can teach them, you can show them. The same with me with this. I can give you all of these tools, but I can't make you pick up the tools and use them. Right? Another famous saying that I like to use a lot is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can only control your actions. And again, know that we all have a common goal, and our common goal is to get through this crisis. Our common goal is to make ourselves stronger, make our businesses stronger, make the West Orange Chamber of Commerce members stronger, and our local economy stronger. It will come back, and it will come back with a bang. You know, there's a lot of financial support, you know, for individuals at the moment. Like a lot of people received their stimulus check today, the $1,200. Say the check came into their bank. But a lot of people have received that. Even the people that are going on furloughs are getting extra payments from the government. Now, some are going to be better off. Right? So some people have got more disposable income during this time. So how can you help them? And how can that help your business? So I'm going to give you two questions on this to sort of think about. The first one is, how do you typically respond when you lose sight of the big picture? Now, that's assuming, of course, that you have a big picture. And if you don't, you need to find a big picture. Again, there's workshops and things that I can work through to help you with that. But how do you typically respond when you lose sight of the big picture? And that's easy to do at the moment. The second question is, what is one area of personal growth that you could focus on during the crisis that would pay dividends after the crisis? Right, so prepare now for what you're looking to achieve at the end. Because if you wait for opportunity to reappear, it's too late to prepare. Now, you can still use that opportunity at that time, but those who prepare now are going to be in a much better state, in a much better position when the opportunities arise to take advantage of it. So let's talk about aligning thinking and decisions to your values. To be honest, I could talk all day on this. In fact, I do a program that is a full day program. I did it for a company up in New Jersey back in February. And one of the things they said to me actually last week was that the work that we did on that day, we didn't realize it at the time. We didn't know this crisis was coming, but the work that we did on that day has actually set them up to be in a great position during this crisis. They're applying the thinking and decisions to their values, which is helping them to serve their customers better. All right, so again, this is something you can start thinking about now. Now, the greatest gap between successful and unsuccessful people is the way they think. Again, I'm going to say, think about that. Think about that. Is what is the way you think? Now, I'm a great fan of Simon Sinek and Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, which, I watched a few years ago and actually facilitated training at Disney teams about this. It's about finding your why, understanding who you are, what is your purpose, why do you do what you do? You see, most people we're not taught what to think. We're taught how to, we are taught what to think. We're not taught how to think. Right? And even less, we're taught why we think the way we do. Right? We tend to be sheep. We tend to follow the status quo. And what again, I want you to think about, and we haven't got time to go through this in too much detail today, but what are your values? What are your personal values? What are your organization's values? Why do you do what you do? Now, I ask this of businesses, and sometimes they say, I manufacture toilet rolls, for example. Right? Well, that's great. That's what you do. Why do you do it? And as business owners, we need to understand that. We need to know why we do that. We only have one why, and our why is based on our past. It's based on the feelings and the emotions of our past, the situations we've been through and how that made us feel, why that is important to us. Now, one of those things, I encourage you to do when you go through this, whether you do it yourself or you do it with me, is go that sort of 5 or 7 levels why. Right? That's going deep into it. So we're not looking at the symptoms, we're looking at the cause. Right? What's at the core of what you do, why you do what you do? And then you need to have a vision. Right? Understanding that your why never changes, but your vision is your grand vision of the future. Right? It should be huge, it should be scary, it should be daunting, it should make you a little bit anxious, but at the same time use that to make you exciting. And then you should always be working towards your vision. Now, your why and your vision should be aligned. And then the gap between that is a strategy. And that's how you're going to do what you're going to do. You don't need to look at that like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. You only need to look at what you're doing today. Because you may plan to do something in 5 years' time, but look at this. Back in January, or let's say back in November last year, did anyone have the slightest inclination that the world would be going through what we're going through this last month? No. So if you were thinking like even a year ahead about what you were going to do, that's all out of the window now. That's all changed. So all you need to be doing is looking one step in front of the other, right? Maybe 2 steps ahead, but no more than that. But what it should be doing is all your thinking and your decisions, it should align your why, your purpose with where you want to go. And does it get you there? If it's moving you away from your vision, then the decision's easy. You don't do it. Even if that's the easiest route, if it's taking you away from your vision, you don't do it. Now, uncertainty, and we're definitely facing uncertainty at the moment, requires us to be creative. Here's the thing, I'll tell you for sure, 100%, what we did to get us where we are will not get us to where we want to be. We need to change our thinking, we need to grow, we need to develop, we need to be creative, be innovative. The 2 questions I'm going to leave you with on this section is, do you have a clear idea of your values? And then secondly, to dovetail on that, does everyone within your company know these 2? Right, let's move on to Today Matters. Make today count. Adversity is filled with uncertainty about tomorrow. So we must turn our attention to what we can control today. We must make today count. John Maxwell has a book called Today Matters, and it's a great book. And in that, he talks about, just for today, let us choose the right attitude. Just for today, let us act on the right priorities. Just for today, let's follow healthy guidelines. Just for today, let's care for our families. Just for today, let's practice good thinking. Just for today, let's keep proper commitments. Just for today, let's manage our finances. Just for today, let's deepen our faith. And let me just say there, faith can be anything. Faith is belief. Whatever you believe in, have faith in it. Yourself, whether it's a religious faith, whether it's your business, whether your decision, whatever. So keep that faith. Believe in what you're doing. Just for today, let's invest in solid relationships. Right? Those solid relationships we make now is what's going to carry us through the future. Just Just for today, let's model generosity. Just for today, let's live good values. And just for today, let's seek improvement. Now, when we're saying just for today, it doesn't mean that tomorrow you don't have to do it. Right? The thing is, when it comes to tomorrow, what is it? It's today. Right? So we can control today. We can influence what happens in the future, but we can't control it. The only thing we can physically control is today. Remember what I said at the start, today is the present, and it's called the present because it's a gift. We don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. So just control today. I touched on choose your attitude. Choose your attitude is really important. How you choose your attitude dictates the day that you're going to have. Go back to the Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. That's an attitude. And it's a choice. I've used this with teams at Disney. I've used it with teachings and trainings where we talk about choose your attitude. You know, when you come to work, when you go to work, when you get up in the morning, how do you perceive your day? What's it going to be? What's your attitude? Are you going to make things work? Or are you going to wait for things to happen? In other words, are you going to display the desired behaviors? We've talked about that before, and again through the program, you would have actually designed and created these desired behaviors. You'll have them defined. Are you going to display them? Another thing I'm really big on is these keystone habits. Right? Keystone habits are the things that we do every day. Right? It can be something as simple as making your bed every day. Right, there's a great video on YouTube about an army officer, I think he's an army officer, it's definitely military, who did a commencement speech about making your bed every day. Right, you may wonder and say, well, what difference does that make to my day? What it's doing is it's preparing you for your day. It's like closing off your sleep. You've made your bed, now you're up, now you're moving. It's just a keystone habit. It could be that you want to do exercising every day. You know, and to do that exercising every day, if you say first thing in the morning, I want to do exercise, well, whatever you do, if you leave your running shoes and your workout gear right by the side of your bed, as you get up, the first thing you do is you put that on, and then guess what? You go and do your exercise. The keystone habit. So what keystone habits can you create? And more importantly, what keystone habits can you put into action and follow through on that are going to help you get to where you want to get to? The aim is for you to be better every day. Again, I could teach forever on this, but it's not about being the best. It's about being better every day. About that constant improvement. If you do that, that will become contagious. There's also a saying, and it's true, that if you prepare well today, you won't have to repair tomorrow. All right, so prepare today. You won't have to repair tomorrow. Right? Too many people live in that firefighting mode, right? They wait for something to go wrong and then they go, okay, now I'm going to fix it. It's actually far better to prepare in advance so you don't have to repair in the future. Look to get some small wins every day. Right? The small wins every day will make you feel better. It will make you feel more accomplished. Will also do that for your team. Right, so what small wins can you get every day? So again, 2 questions to leave you with on this one. Why is it so easy to worry more about tomorrow than to focus on today? And how might focusing on today ease our fears about tomorrow? And I'm going to give you a 3rd question, a bonus question. Did I lead well today? Now, I want to close this off by saying that I trust the information has got your mind racing a little. All right, it's thinking in a different and a more challenging way. It certainly does me, and that's why I love bringing this content to you. One thing I know for sure is that we will all come out of this pandemic And those of us who prepare will be in a much better position when we come out of it. So now is the time to reset your operation. Right? It could be your operation at work. It could be your own, what you do. And actually start making intentional changes that will make a positive difference to the way you do business moving forward. And here's what I mean by reset. This is something I created or defined a week or so ago, and I want to share it with you today. So reset, the R stands for review. So review the actions that you're taking every day, and this should be something that you do every day, end of every day. Evaluate is the E. The S is for strategize. In other words, what am I going to do now to move forward? And then the E is actually execute. In other words, carry out the actions. And then the T stands for today, but it could also stand for trust. Trust that what I'm doing is right. Trust that I'm doing the right thing. Trust in my colleagues. Trust in my workers. Trust in myself. And the thing I'd say there is that people say that knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. It's the intentional application of evaluated knowledge that becomes power. Right? So when you look at this reset, think about that again, right? The review is giving you that knowledge, right? What's happened. E is if you're evaluating that knowledge, what was good, what wasn't so good. How can I replicate the good things in other things? How can I overcome the things that didn't go so well? And then strategize, what can I do about it? How can I do that moving forward? And then the execute is now I'm going to actually do it. Right? So that's the intentional application of that knowledge and actually do it now. So I want to thank you for allowing me to add value to you today. I hope that something within this presentation resonated you in a way that it will make a difference, not only to your lives, but to other people's lives. And again, remember that knowledge is not power, it's the intentional application of evaluated knowledge that will produce exponentially higher returns for you. Now, if you want a copy of the presentation, our wonderful chamber will provide that for you, or you can email me and I'll send it to you. My contact details are included if I can be of any further service to you. And that is my goal, right, is to be of service to you at all times. I want to be able to add value. If my volume went out there for a bit. All right. So again, just to end that, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat box. If I can be of any service to you, I'd be more than happy to be of service to you, and add value as much as I can. And thank you for the chamber for allowing me to bring this lesson to you today.
Thank you so much, Chris. Can you guys hear me? Yes, no, yes, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. That was very enlightening. I really do appreciate that. I'm not sure if we have any questions in that window or not, but I do know that we will be sending out this PowerPoint with a follow-up email. Kelly will be the one sending that for you. I want to thank Chris for that presentation. It was awesome. I always have to remind myself, I always say I need to be motivated to do something, but I really need to action. Once I start acting, then I get motivated to finish it up and complete it. So thank you for reminding me of that, because I tend to wait for that motivation, and sometimes it doesn't quite happen that way. So I appreciate that. Now, I would like to try to get Deborah Rios Barnes, our chairwoman, back on. I'm going to unmute her and see if that works. Deborah, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Well, I apologize that I was having some technical difficulties earlier. But first, I just wanted to say that I hope that everyone's in good spirits, that everyone's healthy and safe, And thank you so much for joining the Spotlight Speakers event. It's just so important that in times like this, we continue this type of engagement with others and really find positive ways to cope with the challenges we're all facing by changing our perspective, our behaviors, as we just heard. I want to really say thank you to the Chamber for adapting so quickly to a virtual environment and really keeping us all connected and informed. I really enjoyed today's presentation. Thank you, Chris. I'm taking away some really good key nuggets that I plan on implementing, in my everyday life. So I really appreciate the presentation. Looking forward to getting it. One of the things I'm going to do immediately is to identify my keystone habits. Might be some I could get rid of, but today matters, so make today count. I really like that. So thank you again for sharing with everyone. We really appreciate everyone taking the time.
All right, thank you, Deborah. I appreciate you joining us today because I know you're busy in your world as well. So I want to thank our sponsors again, our series sponsor of Seacoast Bank and our session sponsor of Strombeck. I want to remind you that we have a couple more events coming up in the month of April. On April 22nd, we have our third installment of the Spotlight Speaker presentation, and that's going to be with Tony DeTino, and he's going to talk to us about how does your brain process uncertainty? I need that for sure. And then on April 30th, we have our Celebrating Extraordinary Women, and we're very excited about that. We have several women that are going to join us, and this is obviously going to be the first time we've done it virtually, so we're really excited about how that's going to happen, and we have a lot of people RSVP for it already, so please join us. And just because we're celebrating extraordinary women doesn't mean that men can't be a part of that as well. So I get that question all the time, so I figured I'd just address it right now. I want to thank the Chamber staff because they have worked crazy hard. We've been doing it from home, we've been doing it from the office, but we're all working to make life better for you guys, our Chamber members. So please know that we're doing that for you. Thank you to the Chamber staff. I'm going to hopefully hit the right button so I actually record everything. And beyond that, I want to say have a great day. Thank you very much.
Great job. Thank you.
Bye. So now when I X out of this, stop.